I'd like to call to order the Tuesday, June 26, 2018 Brooklyn City Board of Education regular meeting. Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Neal.
Here.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Here.
Mr. Singer.
Here.
Mr. Hennings.
Here.
Mr. Roper.
Here.
Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everybody. Our next order of business is comments from visitors. In order for the board to fulfill its obligation to complete the planned agenda in an effective and efficient fashion, a maximum of 30 minutes of public participation as it pertains to school-related topics will be permitted at each meeting. Each person wishing to address the board will approach the podium, state his/her name and address. If several people wish to speak, each person will be allotted 3 minutes until the total time of 30 minutes is used. During that period, no person may speak twice until all who desire to speak have had the opportunity to do so. The period of public participation may be extended by a vote of the majority of the board. If anybody would like to speak?
Oh, don't hold back, please.
Hi, everybody. Bye. Good evening, my name is Mike Changary. I live in Brooklyn. I have 3 children in the district. I'm gonna hand out stuff to the individual board members, so when I read them, you guys can read along with me. I wanna meet with you on an individual basis.
Thank you.
Yours is that one.
Oh, mine.
I got the email.
Oh, thank you.
I'm trying to get this into the light so that we can air the differences. Basically, I sent an email to the Board of Education. I'm going to read it verbatim. Due to the delay of action and clear violations of faith and idea from my students that will cost thousands of dollars in legal fees for board attorneys, I would like to meet with the board to explain in detail the clear violations being made. This meeting is necessary and I have been patient for too long. The emails and conversations with the administration have done nothing, as the rhetoric they use is a claim to be confused about the requests that have been made. The past 4 school years, the needs of my children have been stated in talks and IEP meetings. You as elected officials and active members of our community must stop this administration from further delay, confusion, and rhetoric. The recent exchanges of communications have not addressed the issues and they have only delayed the choice to do the right thing. This must stop and action is urgently needed. Therefore, ask the administration questions about my issues. Please email me with a time and a place where we can meet, and I look forward to a fruitful resolution to these violations. In best regards, Changary. Basically, there's a couple of emails I included for the board. The one I'd like you to look at is the one that talks about Wilson Reading and Foundations. That program has been in place, but unfortunately the application of it will not cover 2 of my children. It says, "Good afternoon, Mr. Changary," at the top. When we spoke last, this is from Dr. Blackhoff. We will train, if you look at 2018 and 2019 school year, we will train 1 teacher to provide Wilson Reading language programs to grades 6 through 12, and this will be, my son would be included. Well, unfortunately, that violates this free and appropriate public education. That's why I want to meet with the board. I don't want to hire an attorney and spend hundreds of thousands, if not many hours and money that we cannot afford. The other thing I would like to state is I'm very disappointed in the board members that have voted for pay raises, since the citizens of this community struggle to make ends meet, and here we're giving 2% pay raises to people that I feel are ineffective and that actually are just confused. So in conclusion, I'd like to say thank you to the board. Please contact me when there can be a meeting. Unfortunately, I can't stay till the end. I have other activities with my kids. So let everyone have a great summer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chigari.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Next, we're going to go, what? Mr. Holman. superintendent's report. On to Dr. Gleichall.
All right, thank you, Mr. Neal. A couple weeks back, I provided my State of the Schools at the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce. And so what I wanted to do, from the beginning there. Very good. I wanted to provide kind of an abridged version for the Board of Education this evening. Kind of give you just a quick snapshot. I always like to start it obviously with our kids. This is a picture of our class of 2018. Wonderful group, and I want to highlight some of the things that certainly they have done. How I framed my State of the Schools was around the 3 goals, and hopefully these look very familiar because these were goals that just a year ago you and I and the central office staff worked on and crafted. So I'm going to kind of use my comments around those 3 goals. So I want to start with student achievement. And that goal, again, was to improve student achievement in order to become the school of choice in a competitive educational environment. And as what we spoke about last year as a Board of Education was, we realized that Brooklyn City Schools is no longer the monopoly in town. We've got charters, we've got community schools, we've always had parochial and your religious-based schools. But we need to realize that that's who our competition is. It's competition to the point of also finances, because we've got probably close to $600,000 that's going to those schools because of students making those choices. So the things that we really looked at is increased opportunities for our students. What greater opportunities can we provide them? What are our student successes? And then obviously, what is our state report card saying? And what progress we're making there. So let me first start with that. And so what I shared at the State of the Schools, and this is the actual slide, is that, just looking at the last 2 years, and again, the state report card, again, is a difficult metric to really kind of talk about because we've been going through that change of tests. But I think the last 2 years, because we've had air tests, are at least is a good comparator. So as you look at this past year relative to the year before, we've had increases in the performance index. That again is the metric that based how did our students perform on the test. So we obviously had more students performing better in the last year. The progress measure, again, that letter grade of a B, I put the note there. Again, that means that students are making more than a year's growth in a year's time. A C would say that they're just making a year's growth in a year's time. Graduation rate for a 4-year has increased. That's a pretty significant increase, and having a B grade on that. The gap closing, certainly there's an F there. I don't like Fs, nobody likes Fs. And that goes to how are our subgroups of students performing here in Brooklyn? And are they making progress? They call that the gap closing. What's unique is there's about 10 different subgroups of students that can be identified on the state report card. Brooklyn has 8 of those 10 subgroups. There are school districts that have 2. And so our great diversity, which we celebrate here in Brooklyn, here when it comes to a report card, becomes something of a little bit of a challenge for us. Nonetheless, we're up to that challenge. But as you notice, that percentage that we've had has increased over the last year. Prepared for success, also a C grade, but that percentage has changed and improved. Again, those are the metrics of how our students are performing at the high school as they matriculate out into the workplace as well into college. And so they look at ACT scores, they look at readiness, so forth. So we're seeing some improvements. So we're excited about the improvements, but again, we realize there is more, we want greater increases with those. So increased opportunities. You'll notice I put these 2 together because they really revolve around health professions. And as we know in Northeast Ohio, health professions is a big deal with the Cleveland Clinic, University Hospitals, the hospitals we have in Northeast Ohio. This is a very big producer of jobs. But we're not just talking about doctors, we're talking about nurses, we're talking about therapists, we're talking about support services. And so that HPAC program, which we've had some students in the high school actually come to our meetings and discuss that, Health Professions Affinity, we've got juniors and seniors that have been involved in that program, give them access to it. And this past year we had the medical detectives class for our 7th and 8th graders. Again, giving our students opportunities to kind of explore those health areas. Obviously, AVID has been a program that's been in place here for some time. We continue to have students and cohorts of groups of students getting into there. Again, a program really for our first generational college students and how they are getting ready for college, and they start even as early as 9th grade with that. A couple other opportunities, study tables really was pushed by you as the Board of Education there. How do we keep kids eligible to perform, whether it's in extracurriculars, athletics, etc.? And so we started that this year, but I think I want to continue to build on that because I want to see even more kids involved in our extracurriculars.
I agree.
Chinese language exploratory. As we had medical detectives, we also had a Chinese exploratory class with our 7th and 8th grade. Chinese is a language that we offer here in-house to our students. Not many schools in Northeast Ohio do that with their high schools. Nevertheless, we know that that's a challenging language, and some kids are intimidated by that. When you have a prep class of like that, an exploratory, it helps kids, you know what, I think I can do this, because we want to challenge them, and this is a particular area. Other successes. 60% of our class applied for four-year college. 4 years ago, that was 21%. So look at what Avid, look what some of the work in the high school has done. Or I should say 7 years ago. to Penn, Ohio, this year we had 3 students qualify. Why do I put that in there? Because if you remember some of my pieces from the last few years, last year we had 2, the year before we had 1.
Right.
So we're starting to see more and more students actually qualify for that state tournament. And obviously increase availability of technology. We added 5 Chrome carts to classrooms this past year. We're hoping to do that the same with some grant dollars to be able to do so. We're trying to put the Chromes that you have now, really in the hands of our students so they can access Google Docs and be able to really do a lot more of that work online and through those suite of products. And I always like to talk about what the value of a Brooklyn education is. I spoke about this at graduation. Our class of 2018, over $300,000 in scholarships, 340 college credits earned. Just this class alone, which values $70,000. As a parent who has a senior going to college, that's a significant figure right there. $370,000 saved in college costs. That's significant. And so we need to continue to do that. I hope that that number continues to grow, though. So moving forward in this area, looking at a change of structure in our elementary and our intermediate schools, that's really going to look at greater efficiencies with our curriculum, our operations, and we're excited about that. We want more kids, as I said before, involved in our extracurriculars. A couple of new course offerings, and I think Mrs. Bobichek shared about this a couple of weeks, or probably last month. AP Government, Intro to Computer Science. Again, it's nice to be able to offer an additional AP class to our students and also that computer science. This year, we're putting science and social studies unit assessments in place. Those are, I've spoken about the English language arts and the math, kind of benchmark unit assessments that measure where our kids are relative to those standards that we have our teachers teaching to. So that's going to be a good benchmark for us. And then we're going to be, as we've moved to the Google Suite, we want also our students to be doing that. And so probably with our high school students, I could see us really rolling out Gmail accounts for them to be able to use that. Truth be told, many of our kids have Gmail accounts already, but these will be school-based ones for our students. So let me go to the second item there, which was build trust through communications. That goal, as you wrote it, was to build community trust in our Brooklyn City schools through purposeful engagement and communications. There was a number of face-to-face communications that we had during the course of the year. Strategic planning, I'm going to hold that for a moment because I want to talk about that in a sec. Campaign communications. Obviously, during the past year, we had 2 levies up on the ballot. We had a PI come up in the November. We had our renewal levy of our operations coming up it was in May. And so just the communication we had with our committee, but also our public and our voters was significant during that time. And advisories. I had my own superintendent's advisory, both parent and student. Our buildings had some advisories. So there was a lot of face-to-face communications that we had. Print and online communications. varied things. For instance, the quality profile, there's a picture of it there. That was something that we threw out with the report card that really gave us an operational overview to our stakeholders of where we were, and we thought that was a nice addition to complement the report card. We also we've had Twitter, we've had Facebook, we've got our website, e-communications, doing more email to our parents and our families directly. This year, I've sent out that Hurricane Pride on a monthly basis in trying to expand that. This year, as you know, we did a joint work with the city and did that newsletter. We had a couple of pages in that newsletter that went out to all of our residents. So we've really tried to expand our print and online communications. School safety. I put it in this item because there was a lot of communication with our stakeholders. I'm going to hold on to that for a moment as well. And other partnerships and collaboration, certainly with the city, we have many partnerships, whether it's our economic development, the newsletter I just spoke of, the student resource officer that we have here. Right now, City Day Camp is going on in our school. They provide the crossing guards for us. And right now, we're obviously having a lot of discussion around Hurricane Alley and the shared services and the shared opportunities that could come of that as well. The other one certainly is our Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce, and I think you all know the support that they've provided us, whether it's been student scholarships, it's been teacher grants, student internships. So those are some of the areas to highlight. Strategic planning. Wanted to take a moment to really talk about this because we started this back in January, and this trail is now going on for about 6 months. We started with a meeting late in January. We had about 60 stakeholders come, and this is a picture from that. From there, those stakeholders then got input from a variety of folks around the community, whether it was other parents, whether it was other teachers, and so forth. All that information was brought to a one-day retreat that happened in early February. Those 50 stakeholders got together, used all that information, that data, and then 5 focus areas came out of that. Once those areas and those subgroups were created, each of you were on one of those. And so those subgroup areas then met. They met multiple times, upwards to 3 times. And goals and timelines were created with that. What we're looking to do is reconvene that management team after school begins in the fall. Have that management team vet that, look at that, and then present it here to the board. But the work's not done. We want those subcommittees to continue to meet and look at those goals. Have they been met? And do new goals have to be crafted from there? So this is going to be an ongoing process as we really put that vision of Brooklyn 2023 together. School safety. I wanted it to be its own slide because, as I've said to students, I've said to staff, I've said to parents, we've entered a new realm in terms of school safety. I can say that because I've been in this business long enough to know when Columbine happened. And I was the Brooklyn Middle School principal then. Mm-hmm. At that point, it was a time when we were like, wow, this could happen. And we as school folks, administrators and teachers, that then figured out, well, what do we need to do to make our schools safe, our students safe, our staff safe? And we put things into place. With the events of Parkland and so forth now, we now realize we have to greater engage with our students. They have to be partners with us because, truth be told, they communicate much quicker and much more nimbly than we do. And so we've now, from this, we've engaged with our students. We've had a couple of student forums in the high school. They're really partners with us as we put more emphasis on how they can tell us in real time what's happening amongst themselves and in our schools. And that's why the Stay Safe, Speak Up hotline and those things are really being emphasized with our students. And it's interesting because our students are concerned about it. They want to know the emergency operation plans we're putting into place. They want to know what, the evacuation drills. And so you notice this year we did a lot of different things that are non-traditional when it comes to school safety. But a lot of schools are in the process of doing so. And that's going to be something that we continue to do as a school district. As we move forward, as I said, strategic planning is not we're done with it and we put it on the shelf and it's done. It's going to be a continuous process. This next one, I think we have to continue to engage with our BHS alumni. This is a great picture. This is the class in 1967. I had the good fortune to be able to walk them around during, I think it was a Saturday in October. They had a whole weekend of events planned, and I walked them around the school, and obviously they wanted to see the gymnasium, and I was here, and this is where my class was, and it's great to hear from them because they show great pride in their school. And these are folks that, they're all over the East Coast now. I mean, there was folks that drove in for a day to get to this weekend to have this 50th anniversary, or 50th reunion. So we have to continue to engage with these groups. And we've got so many proud alums that we have to bring back.
Jim, you're almost there, right?
I resemble it.
School safety has to continue to be a priority. And I think we need to continue to engage with our senior citizens. We do something in the spring, we have them come up just before our musical. I think we have to look at some sort of fall engagement to bring them in and showcase our kids again, because that's always a highlight, I know, to those seniors. So the third area is fiscal stability. So let me kind of take a moment here with this one. The things I want to highlight, obviously our permanent improvement levy that we had in November, that failure, and then some of our existing challenges and opportunities with our facilities. The operating levy of May, the state funding challenges, some of the responsible spending that we're doing, shared services, and the 5-year forecast. So school facilities. Obviously the challenges begin with our BHS roof. Obviously we've seen the pictures. All you need to do is watch News 5. But the challenge also here is that we have to maintain our new building. We're sitting in a 3-year-old building now, and without permanent improvement dollars, we can't let this facility start to become decrepit. And so that's going to be a challenge for us as we move forward. Now, the opportunity is House Bill 264. And again, for those not knowing, House Bill 264 is a program that allows us to put investments and make some changes that are actually cost-saving measures for the district. We're putting LED lighting in the high school, which is about 99% complete. We're looking at new systems controls for HVAC, which will save much dollars. And of course, the always sexy kitchen hood. Again, one would think, what's a kitchen hood? Just putting a variable motor on that can actually save upwards to thousands of dollars a year. So those are things that we were able to look at and say, hey, we can save some dollars. And that actually, this project would be paid for, I think, in a number of like 5 or 6 years, really. So it's amazing, but the cost savings keeps on going down the road. Operating expense levy, obviously. Thank you to the voters of Brooklyn. When you get a 2-to-1 for vote, that gives all of us energy to say, okay, that's great. Our good work is being people are thankful for that. As we know, that preserves our current funding levels. It's an operating renewal, so it continues our dollars at our current expenses or our current levels. Some of the challenges. And I think we have to continue to talk about this one, but the tangible personal property tax. This was something that the state, again, for people who don't understand that, that's a tax on inventory and goods that in the past went directly to the schools. And in 2010, the Brooklyn schools had over $2.2 million in tangible personal property tax that came directly to the school district. We're a $16 million budget. That's a significant amount of dollars. When the state phased that out, they said, well, we'll start to reimburse you for that, to ease that. And we're one of those districts that the pain is pretty deep. And let me explain. Because as you notice here, in the last 8 years, we've lost $1.5 million in tangible personal property tax. That's significant. And as you see down here, that's going to be totally phased out at current rate in 2022. We can't outrun this. It's inevitable.
Is that in almost all the districts, correct? Almost every district.
Almost every district, and ours is significant because of the size of our district.
Correct.
But also the amount of industry that we do have in it, that had some significant TPP in it. So, as I said here, we're gonna lose those other $700,000, $800,000 in revenues over the next few years. And so that's a significant piece. Obviously, if we look at the last year, obviously, John last month did the forecast. We've been fiscally responsible over the last few years. This year, it's going to be tough. As you can see, right now, we're looking at about a $300,000 deficit. When that's even with our May 8th renewal levy passage, we're more than likely going to be deficit spending right now. The projection is in FY19. So that's why, as you know, we have some big decisions to make very quickly on, where we need to go in terms of new money. But, as we do that, though, what have been the efforts that we've tried to take here as a district, really to save and reduce costs? Obviously, joining Suburban Health Consortium was huge. That saved us, a couple $100,000 a year in terms of our health benefits. We're looking at every position to see, do we need to, replace it, whether it's a resignation or whether it's a retiring position. The House Bill 264 I spoke about. Restructuring the elementary and intermediate school. There's operational costs that are going to be saved there. And so, those are significant. We're doing some administrative restructuring. I want to speak a little bit about that. Lobbying with our legislators. As we talked about what's happening with TPP, I've gone down and testified down at the state. We've worked with our representative and our senators on this, and pursuing shared service opportunities. We've done some administrative restructuring. A couple of those, we've got some new principals we're even going to be hiring tonight. That restructuring is significant. It's going to give us some operational efficiencies. We're looking right now at probably having to replace our director of PD and assessment. I'd like to make that a broader role where we can get more operational efficiency out of it, but at a revenue neutral cost. So thinking about that, at something at a similar or same cost, but trying to get more efficiency with that. And we're looking to hire an halftime athletic director as we're moving forward. So, I want to reiterate these points that, we've got the same amount of administrators projected for next year that we had last year. Greater efficiency, more responsibility. But the other piece there too is already we're looking at a savings of over $30,000 in terms of those costs. And so we're trying to do more with less here in our administrative side.
Dr. Glyko, can I ask a question, please? The replacing of the director of PD and assessment, is that what spurred the posting from last week that caused so much
I think so.
Confusion and concern?
Well, and I think that was why I wanted to talk about that, because that certainly is a big deal. And, certainly I want to speak about, that particular individual, Lori, and respect her work. But, that's a critical position, especially where we are as you talk about our report card. But we're also looking at how we can maximize that particular position administratively so that we can give it its support and its leadership to teaching and learning, but also our district at large. Because as you notice there, we've got a lot of things that we're doing. And so having folks that can help us in a few different venues is going to be significant.
So a new title, but the same amount of money?
Yeah,
Exactly.
pretty much. And again, shared services. It needs to be reiterated because we're only a couple days away from really moving over to Parma City Schools, handling our transportation. Again, that's going to save us some money here, even here in the first year, but the savings isn't long term. We can't afford one of those new shiny new buses. They run close to $100,000 right now, and without a permanent improvement levy, it's nearly impossible to do so. But again, we're only busing 150 kids on a daily basis.
Right.
That's not a large number of students, and so this shared services agreement makes sense. And
It's a
we've
one-year
got-
agreement, correct?
That is correct. So we want to do that and look at what is the best thing for us as we move forward. So, as we move forward, this isn't a spoiler alert. The district's going to have to ask for new money. The last time the district asked for new money was back in 2013. So you're looking at about 5 years. Typically, schools are going through those cycles. And schools that aren't in the same financial crisis, perhaps that we are, we have to continue to be transparent with what we're doing, finances and spending. BHS roof, urgent necessity. Mr. Street brought this up to you, and we have decided as a Board of Education, and at the imploring of me, we have some areas in the high school that just need to have a better roof. And so we've decided that we've got to spend some dollars to put some, almost a TPO, a membrane roof over that high school, especially our instructional areas. It pains me, it embarrasses me when I've got classrooms that are just having leaks in them. And so I appreciate your support of that, because we need to move forward with that. But we also have to keep to our maintenance schedule. We want to maintain this building for the long haul, so that it's going to be a viable building when somebody's here doing a presentation 7 years from now. And they say, boy, you know what? They maintained this building and now it's in great shape. So to sum up, I think there's 3 points I want people to leave with. Brooklyn City Schools, we continue to have value. The tangible value of what we've got our graduates as they move on, $370,000 a year. That's significant dollars as they move forward. But I think you saw from the opportunities, there's great value in the education that we provide our kids. Fiscally responsible. We have to, because we don't have great amounts of excess dollars, if none, for that matter. But we have to be responsible with each and every one of those. And so we want to do that, but we also want to be transparent with that. We're making progress, and we've got an eye on the future, especially as we talk about strategic planning and what we want to do instructionally. And I think we're at a great point right now. I do. Despite what that picture financially looks like, I think we've got a really bright future in terms of Brooklyn, for the kids, for our opportunities, and certainly where we are in Northeast Ohio. We have to maximize that opportunity. So that was it in a summation. Probably took a little bit longer than I wanted to.
Fine.
So, but I'll honor any questions you guys may have.
Anybody? Bob? Bonnie? Rick?
I always have a question. Dr. Mark, I just recently read where the House, State of Ohio, just passed the new resolution to change the ballot language from it's the valuation per $100 to market value per $1,000. So how is that going to affect us when we go on our next campaign?
That's a great question, and I have to be honest, I think it could be problematic. I don't like the term market value. And John could probably speak more eloquently about it, but I think when you think market value, you think of what you've bought and sold it for. And that's not necessarily the case, because, they're not assessed on the full market value. They're assessed on 35% of that. And so I think that's going to be, ballot language is confusing enough for voters. This, I think, is one that's going to be even more so. Associations that I'm aligned to tried to lobby to not have that passed.
I know.
And so because of the confusion that we believe it's going to bring to voters. So the ballot language has been something they've been talking about.
Some of the concern is that there's quite a few variables in like a $100,000 value. There's some folks that are on limited incomes and elderly that would pay less than what is implied on the ballot. So that's one of the concerns. Industrial commercial property is another concern, because there would be a difference in what is on the ballot. So, they tried to make it simpler, and there's really no easy solution, but I hope that as it washes out, that it will be better, but we'll see.
It's a government project? Trying to make it simpler?
That's never gonna work.
Question.
That's a good question, though, and I think, Rick, we're going to be watching that one closely.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah, going back to the school part of it, the progress, even though it's a C is 1 year's advance. Is the letter grade applicable to like a part of a year? Is that how that works? Because to me, maybe I'm just too dense to realize it, but it's either pass or fail. Either you got the year's growth, or you don't have the year's growth. So having a C is like, it should be, to me, just to make it simple, make it a pass fail.
Well, that would be good, but I think what they want to do, Jim, is they want to, how can they rate one school versus relative to another? I think that unfortunately the report card brings it that way. Where you're right, a report card, we could all get a report card, and we might all get an A, and that would be wonderful. But I think sometimes there's this challenge where they want to have a report card and they want to say, well, you know what, Jim, you really did it well. And Rick did it second best, and Rocky did it third best. And I'll be honest, the value-added metric is probably one of the most confusing of all. Because really what they do is they take all the kids who've taken the test in 1 year, and then they line them up against the kids who took it in the second year. And they kind of put them in these little quadrants. And I went to a 2-day seminar on it, and I think I was more confused afterwards. And I think they did it purposefully. But, you know, I think it's so complicated of a measure. There's some calculus to it that says, but they try to weight it towards your most recent years. Now, fortunately, our most recent years have been good. Mm-hmm. We've had good value added, so I suspect that our value added score will continue to be good as we look at the report card probably in another month or two. But it's a real complicated measure.
I mean, it just, the whole letter grade, when they came up with the letter grades a couple years ago, it doesn't show continuous improvement. You know, it's either this or this, and there's just too many variables to make it that black and white.
And again, you probably asked the wrong question, because now you're talking about testing, you're talking about report card, and I can speak for hours. And the fact is, I put a lot of stock in what we're doing with our own kids in classrooms. Mm-hmm. You know, those unit assessments I spoke about, those are going to be important. How is Rick doing relative to the science standards that we've just taught him? Mm-hmm. And what are the concepts that he's not learning, so that we can make sure that we reteach those or formatively assess those better? And so that's more important, because if we do well on the formative assessments and our unit assessments, that will follow. And if it doesn't, then we've got a connectivity issue that we've got to deal with.
Right, and we're a small district that we can shine a light on each individual student, as opposed to just lumping them all and saying,
absolutely,
you didn't make the cut, you get a D or you get an F.
That's the beauty of our size, that we're much more nimble. We're able to really dissect and go deeper into that and figure out, But unfortunately, one student sometimes can be a percentage point or two. Right. And that's where it becomes very significant when you talk about some of those measures.
Yeah, the subgroups especially.
Because there's students who can be in multiple subgroups. Mm-hmm. And that's a really significant piece that a lot of folks don't realize.
Right.
So,
Mark, what are the subgroups, just for the people?
oh boy, you were going to ask me that.
Sorry.
White, all students, Southeast Asian, multi-language. Help me if somebody said.
You're on your own.
ELL.
Come on, Kristen, help them out.
Special
Throw him
ed,
under the bus, he's fine.
special,
Laura?
socioeconomic, multiracial. Did I say?
Is that enough?
You want to just come up now? Just
That gives a good flavor.
It's-
So if we don't have enough kids in that subgroup, that can really skew the number.
Well, again, now you've piqued me again, because this is another one. There usually is a threshold of 30 students. You have to have 30 in a particular subgroup in order for it to count. You know, the state's been wanting to play with that and say, well, we'll make it a little bit less. We'll time out. Hold on here. Let's be careful what we're
If you only
doing.
have 3 Antarcticans and
Yeah.
none of them make the cut.
Exactly. So, it's something they start to play that, and it's difficult, because you don't want it to be like that. Like, Mark is in 4 subgroups, and I really want to make sure Mark does well. But Jim's only in 2, so, we're not going to worry about him. We got to worry about everybody.
Right.
I got 1,350 students that I want to do well each and every year, not just a couple that are in multiple subgroups.
Right.
So that's where it gets difficult as educators, because we want all of our students to be successful. So
Anybody else?
you piqued my passions tonight.
There you go. Get you rolling.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you, appreciate it. Next, we're going to go on to comments from board members and board committee reports. We're going to start with Mr. Sanger.
Well, I think somebody sabotaged my notes here. These have the long
Good.
one here and the long.
They're usually long.
So,
Usually, but it's-
I'm going to open it up with I'm glad that Medical Mutual signed an agreement with the city. I think that's going to be a very positive step forward for the Brooklyn community, and probably just as well for the Brooklyn schools, hoping we can get them engaged to maybe do some joint partnerships with Brooklyn Schools and Medical Mutual. And since you're concentrating on healthcare initiatives and professions, that might be a good segue to do something with Medical Mutual. Plus, we like their cash too, so, that's a good thing. I would ask Dr. Mark that perhaps between Rocky and yourself, maybe we can get the city to, and I might just not be knowledgeable about this, but try to press to see what's the next milestone or timeline for what we're doing with Hurricane Alley and the recreational facilities. I don't know if we're in a stall or I'm kind of
No.
waiting for the next.
Just been busy schedules has really been.
Yeah, I kind of assumed that, but we can't let go of that because the worst thing we can do is start all over from scratch because we have outdated information. So I would just ask that we try to get an update the next meeting.
Push it forward.
Again, the fiscal stability, look for other revenue enhancement programs and perhaps some additional grant writing with some of our new staff people. They might have some input and some experience with grant writing. I want to acknowledge Mike's gone, Mike Changari's gone, I wanted to thank him for bringing this to our attention and that hopefully we can get this thing resolved. And last thing is just to be keep an eye out for the kids playing the streets, crossing the streets since they're on summer break, that we keep them safe. So that means maybe looking twice before you round that corner or go through that yellow light when it's really red and watching a kid riding his bike across the street. And what's the latest hot button for a lot of the residents in Brooklyn is the concern for the kids, for those people. And they must not live in Brooklyn because they kind of blow through the stop signs. And I've seen a lot of young children kicking a ball out in the street, and the worst thing that can happen is for there to be an accident. So just keep it safe and keep an eye out for our kids. And a report.
Awesome. That is his shortest report.
Yes.
I did steal your notes, just so you didn't have them. I'm just kidding. On to Mr. Roper. Thanks,
Mr.
Rick.
President. I thank everybody here. Thanks to Mr. Changari. I'm sure we'll get to discuss that. I'll keep my report short tonight too. Hold your applause. We had a tour of the Polaris renovation project a couple weeks ago. The third floor is being rebuilt as there's only framework up there at the present time. The first floor is being abated and all the large lab bays have been stripped with reconstruction starting. And it's really interesting to walk through there and see that some of the walls haven't seen the light of day since like 1975, and it's like a kaleidoscope of colors. It's really psychedelic, I guess is the best word. Congratulations to the 243 honor roll and 151 merit roll scholars on tonight's agenda. I'm sure this is the first or last time you'll hear this, but hard work does not go unrewarded. Also, of course, congratulations to the 2018 graduates who are embarking on life after high school. Good luck to all of them. And I'd personally like to thank Annie Hostetler and Lori Bobenchek for their many years of service to students of the district. They always had time for me when I had questions about curriculum and other subjects, and as a board member, I appreciated their honesty and integrity. And now that we have new email addresses, I had to rewrite this part. I can now be reached at james.oper, O-P-E-R, at bcshurricanes.org.
Nice.
Or at 216-485-8195. And that's my report.
Thank you. On to Mr. Hennings.
Thanks, Mr. President. I'd like to take a minute of everybody's time here before I even start to go into mine. Unfortunately, one of our students has lost his mother, and we had a fundraiser for him. I'd like to tell everyone thank you for everything that you donated. It just shows the graciousness of this city. Not to mention people who I didn't even recognize on there, to include my former commander from the Army donated, which I was kind of surprised. But after Facebook took their cut of whatever they get out of it, we managed to raise $3,688.43. So I made arrangements with our wrestling coach, Ray Mass. He's gonna get a hold of Austin and Andrew, and I'll give this money to him tomorrow. After that, if we can help him in any way, God bless him. So, also, I don't have a whole lot to say, which is kind of a switch, but that's okay. With the new school year coming, I know it just ended, but you know it's gonna go fast. The summer's gonna go fast. We're always in need of people helping out with the athletic boosters and the music boosters and the PTSA. So there's always tons of ways of getting involved. If anybody wants to be involved, please don't hesitate to contact any one of those groups if you want to be involved. They do a lot of extra work, especially the athletic boosters. They're always raising money for everything that the coaches need. Not to mention the coaches are right there raising funds also to help out. So if anybody wants to be involved with any of the booster groups, please call. And that's all I have.
You got it. Thanks, Mr. Hennings. On to Mrs. Barczyk.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also would like to thank Mr. Chingari for coming up and giving us his copies of his emails. I know he has emailed the board. I know some of us have replied back to him, but we're gonna have to look at meeting with him, whether individually or as a group, since he's requested that. I think it's just the courtesy that we should offer him since he's requested that. I would also like to, not to be redundant, but I'd also like to congratulate the 2018 graduates. I know they have a bright future ahead of them. They will always be Hurricanes. And remember, like I always say, it's the mom and me. You have a home off of 480, the Ridge exit, and the Tiedemann exit. There's always a home for you. You'll always be a Hurricane, and God bless you, and good luck. I also would like to also, I know, don't want to say the same things again, but you guys took a lot of my thunder. Being the last one to speak isn't really, you know.
I set it up that way.
I know. Thanks. Thanks. I would also like to thank recognize and congratulate the kids who made the honor and merit roll. We all realize the hard work that you put into that, the hours that you spend on your class work, and then also our students and our artists and those kids who are involved with the athletics, our music department, and all our various other extracurricular activities. Keep up the great work. It's recognized. We are proud of you. Thank you so much. The hard work has begun behind the scenes that people don't really realize and don't know about, the day-to-day hard stuff that goes on in the summer to make sure these buildings look the way they do when we start back to school. So I'd like to thank Mrs. Neal and her team of summer workers who are working hard to get this building into shape. People don't realize that. They don't realize what goes on. They think everybody's off in the summer and then the building opens and it's, wow, it's clean. That isn't how life works. I'm sure most every mom in here knows that is not how life works. There isn't little fairies that come in the middle of the night to clean your house or your school building and make sure everything's all done. So thank you to Mrs. Neal and her team. I know they do some very, very hard work to get us to get our grounds and our building ready. The Domestic Violence Commission met on June 14th. I was unable to attend the meeting. I was in Florida. Some of our students happened to be performing down in Disney. I was there to watch some of that. My daughter was performing also. So they represented Brooklyn well. And so I was not able to attend the meeting. The next meeting is set for September 6th at 6:30 p.m. at the community room at the fire station. I hope everyone's enjoying their summer and staying cool, especially during this heat wave that is supposed to be heading towards us soon. And since everybody else took my thunder and took everything I wanted to say, I will end it with, I can be reached at 216-406-4304. Thanks, Mr. President.
You got
Thanks,
it.
guys.
All right, I'll be short too. Technology committee, I know Dr. Glykoff, we're hoping for about 5 grants that people applied for. The goal for the board is to 1-for-1 Chromebooks throughout the school. I know that I do my travels about once a month through the school and see those kids using them, and it's impressive. They know a lot more than I do. With that said, we're just going to move on to, and one thing I'm going to say is, sometimes change is a good thing, and we do have some change coming down the pike, and I'm okay with it. All right, sometimes it brings us a new energy, and it's not a bad thing. So, with that said, we're gonna move on to minutes of Board of Education. Oh,
Treasurer.
I forgot the treasurer.
Yeah, 'cause we
Why
did it
didn't
in
you
under-
flip-flop me, John? What'd you do to me here?
Come on down there.
All right, we're gonna be done with board committee reports. We're gonna go on to the treasurer's report.
So I'd like to say, with Dr. Glykoff, he hit on the financial piece and the state of the schools, and it'd be nice if I could say ditto, but I got in a lot of trouble the last time I said ditto. So this is just a little bit of a repeat what Mark said. The Finance Committee that consists of Mr. Singer, Dr. Glykoff, Mr. Neal, and myself met on June 13th.
That's right.
I suggested to the Finance Committee that the full board consider placing a continuing operating levy on the November ballot. As we all have discussed in the past, and as Dr. Glykoff had mentioned, the repeal of the tangible personal property tax that's on business equipment and inventory that was repealed in about 2005, and then the state had to reimburse school districts at a declining basis for all these years because it would have just put most every school in the poorhouse. We happen to be one of the schools that relied the most on tangible personal property tax, so it has hurt us the most. And I would say most of the schools in the state are off the reimbursement, but we are still on it. And Dr. Glykoff's slide showed how much we have lost over these years and how much we're going to lose until 2022 when it becomes zero. And as Dr. Glykoff said, we're not able to make up for that loss in just the reductions of all the reductions that have been made at the school. We just can't make up that kind of money. The board has been and Dr. Glykoff has been very aware of any kind of a tax increase and for the community, but at some point we just can't, like Dr. Glykoff said, outrun the loss of really $2 million a year for each year over these last number of years. So over the month of July, the board and I will have discussions over a couple of meetings because it will take 2 resolutions.
Correct.
To put the issue on the ballot in November, and the board would choose whether to do this or not and what form that would take. I will say that the number of our current issues are emergency levies, and emergency levies were for a specific dollar amount. I would suggest this time that we have a continuing levy because with the advantage of a continuing levy is that we don't have to come back to the voters every 5 years like we've got, we'll have three issues up in these 3 years. And also with emergency levy, you don't get growth in the construction in the district. As I think everybody or most people know, there's a hotel coming in. If we would pass an operating levy of a continuing nature, then that would, the revenue from that hotel would then help fund the district.
Correct.
And other construction projects that would be going on. So that's it, if anybody has any questions. But over the next month, we'll be addressing that and see what you folks would like to do for the November ballot.
Absolutely, appreciate that. All right, now we're gonna go on to minutes of Board of Education, and our reader tonight is Mr. Singer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Be it resolved that the minutes of the following Board of Education meeting be adopted and all action taken by the Board of Education in said meeting is hereby reaffirmed and approved. The regular meeting of May 22nd, 2018, the special meeting of May 29th, 2018, the special meeting June 6th, 2018, and the special meeting of June 20th, 2018.
Can I have a motion,
So
please?
moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Be resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the financial statements of receipts and expenditures for the month of May 2018, including all purchase orders paid and all then and now statements for the month of May as submitted.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Mr. Street, anything to add?
No, just the usual reports there.
Thank you.
You know, and the cash flow for the end, as of the end of May is listed on there too.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer,
Yes.
Mr. Roper,
Yes.
Mr. Hennings,
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education authorize the superintendent to enter into a contract with the Cuyahoga County Office of the Early Childhood to be a universal pre-kindergarten provider effective August 1st of 2018 through July 2020.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Dr. Glykoff?
Yeah, just a couple. This is the UPK preschool grant, which the district has had for approximately 10 years, I believe. You'll notice it's a multiple-year piece. What this grant typically provides, supplies, parent training, staff professional development, and so forth. It also provides scholarships to some of our low-income families, so that they can also this new contract, just so you realize, and there's something later on in here, is having us actually increase our hours of our preschool from 10 to 12 and a half per week. So that's one of the pieces in there. So just wanted you to be
This is
aware
the
of that.
five-star program that we had?
That is correct, yes.
Thank you, Mrs. Hubbell.
Yeah, Mrs. Hubbell's here to represent the
Appreciate that.
UPK today. Thanks.
Anybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer,
Yes.
Mr. Roper,
Yes.
Mr. Hennings,
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the appointment of Mrs. Laura Baker and Mrs. Sandra Neal as the approving and verification officials, and with Dr. Mark Lykoff as the hearing official for the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education free and reduced lunch program for the 2018-19 school year.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Pretty standard. We have to do this annual, just naming of particular officials with that program.
Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer,
Yes.
Mr. Roper,
Yes.
Mr. Hennings,
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Abstain.
Be resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby authorizes the superintendent to enter into a service agreement with Lisa Deesh, PT LLC, for physical and occupational therapy services from August 1st, 2018 through July 31st, 2019.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions, comments?
Just our OT-PT services, we've done it through this LLC last year as well. There's no increase in the rate for this year.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer,
Yes.
Mr. Roper,
Yes.
Mr. Hennings,
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District hereby establishes the following increases for tuition and hours beginning with the 2018-2019 school year. Increase of tuition $250 per month. Increase the number of hours to 12.5 hours per week.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Dr. Glykoff?
Yeah, like I spoke about just a moment ago, we're mandated to increase the preschool hours, so that's the hour change. We thought this was the time, we really haven't done this in several years, is increase actually the tuition. And that would be full tuition for folks who pay the full, for parents who pay the full tuition. So this was the opportunity to do that. So this should offset some of the additional costs.
Okay. Anybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer,
Yes.
Mr. Roper,
Yes.
Mr. Hennings,
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Be resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the following cafeteria prices for the 2019 school year. As noted, the grades through K through 5, breakfast will be $1.40, lunch will be $2.60. For the adults, it'll be $4, and milk will be 40 cents. For the grades 6 through 12, breakfast will be $1.60, lunch will be $2.95, adults will pay $4, and milk again will be 40 cents.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
That's no increase, correct?
Correct. No increase into this year.
Anybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer,
Yes.
Mr. Roper,
Yes.
Mr. Hennings,
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Be resolved that Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby authorizes the superintendent to enter into an agreement with Positive Education Program, otherwise known as PEP, for the placement of students into their educational program per Ohio Revised Code 3323-08 for the 2018-19 school year. The agreement is on file in the treasurer's office.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Dr. Blackoff?
Some of our students, per their IEP, are mandated to go to particular outside placements. PEP is one of those. We actually have 4 students attending PEP schools. So this contract is for the next school year on that.
And what is the cost for the 4 students to attend PEP?
I know the increase, I don't know the exact amount, it's probably in the contract, but I think the increase is about $500 per student on an annual basis, so. I don't know.
Off the top of my head, specifically for PEP, I'm not sure, but some of these programs cost us $70,000 per kid.
Yeah, 70,000 per.
Oh,
I want
yeah.
to make that point when we're.
Well, I don't know if PEP is that high. I know Learner School, which
Yes.
you'll see later on, is
Is that
approximately that. I think PEP is a little bit south of that, so.
Yes, but we have 4 there, so
Yeah.
that adds up quickly.
It adds up quickly, absolutely.
Yes, it does.
Anybody else? Mrs. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer,
Yes.
Mr. Roper,
Yes.
Mr. Hennings,
Yes.
Mrs. Burcheck.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves that the district has adopted and is enforcing a nutrition standard policy that considers the requirements of the Ohio Revised Code 3313-814, governs the types of food and beverages that may be sold on the premises of the school.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Dr. Blackoff?
Yeah, this is, again, an annual certification that we just are abiding by the rules that says, you can't, sell all these fatty, foods, and you can't, all this thing that's got sugar and it's high in sodium. There's particular
All the good
standards
stuff.
that we,
Yeah.
so,
That I sell at night.
so we have to really abide by that. So this is our certification of that.
How long have we been stuck with this?
Well, I think these standards have been in play, but they've been refined over the years. And depending on the administration, it really depends on that as well.
How
So-
political of an answer was that?
And when you say administration, let's clarify what administration, not
we don't need
us.
to
No, I don't, yeah.
It has nothing to do with
administration,
us.
Yeah, whether it's, federal or state mandates to that, so. Yeah, it's unfortunate because, I think fewer and fewer kids really have school lunch. They opt either to, bring or get something else or whatever.
So when a school district participates in the federal school lunch program, then these restrictions are in place. If you don't participate in the federal lunch program, then you can really do anything you want. The federal lunch program, dictates that, as Mark said, fatty foods, can't have those. You can't sell pop, and there's limitations on what you can bring into the school and things like that. So, and the free and reduced lunch program then reimburses us for the lunches that the students eat that are on the free and reduced program. So it's significant dollars to the school, so we really need to participate in it. It had gotten stricter over the last, say 8 years or so, and then it hasn't loosened up as far as I know in the last year.
Nice political answer too.
Yeah,
You guys are doing
I
great.
pulled it up pretty good.
It just
Well
we
played.
have, yes, well played. We have to.
We had to go it alone.
It isn't an option for our district
Well,
to get out of the because aren't 50 to 60% of our kids in the free and reduced program?
I think John said it best. We can't afford not to be in the
Yes.
program. And it would be a disservice to our students not to be in the program. Because you're right, we have so many students who will have particular needs. We want to give them that opportunity. Absolutely.
John just said it would cost us $60,000 a year if we didn't participate in that program.
And I kind of pulled that
Yeah.
out of the air, but it just gives you, I mean, it's probably better I don't do that, but it just gives you an idea.
That's okay.
Okay.
Bob,
I just wanted a dollar amount there, to show how much we'd be forking over.
What that means is I'll come up with it for you tomorrow. And
Yeah, so let us. But I mean, because we're at what 50 or 60% of free and reduced.
We are right in between there.
50 or
You're
60%
absolutely
of our
correct.
kids are free and reduced.
55.
So
Mara, do you know?
We receive about $22,000 a month in the
Whoa.
National School Lunch Program. So over the months of the year, 9 months, we're getting about 22,000 a month.
Whoa.
That's
so-
It's 180,000.
That's
Yeah.
significant dollars.
Brooklyn Education came right through, look at that.
Yeah, the byproduct of that,
70,000?
byproduct of that is our athletes are being underfed because they're limiting the portions.
They
And we
need
have,
some of it.
and I think our garbage bill went up because a lot of these kids will take the lunch, maybe pick through it and throw it away. And they're still hungry. I mean, that's the byproduct of this.
Peanut butter and jelly.
I think our football players need some of that other food,
Yeah.
the fatty type food.
I know, that's not a decision we can make, though. The point of
No.
this resolution is the fact that we have no control over that at all.
Correct.
Yes.
You're right. Anybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer,
No,
Mr. Oper,
Yes.
Mr. Hennings.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Rock, it's okay.
Symbolic.
I lost it there for a second.
Where are we at? I got lost.
You want to reconsider?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
And Mr. Neal?
Yes.
You sure?
Yeah.
It's summertime.
symbolic, as Jim said, symbolic. Where are we?
Sorry, Bob.
Fundraising activities, 4.8.
Got lost too.
Yeah. Not here.
Next page.
This is
It's
coming.
at the top of that one page.
Okay,
There
4.8,
we go.
okay.
There we go. We'll get it. This is comical tonight.
Be resolved, the Brooklyn City School
Oh.
Board, District Board of Education hereby approves the applications for the following fundraising activities on file in the Treasurer's Office. 8th grade North Coast Frozen Food Sale for Washington DC trip. Dates are September and October of 2018. And we have the High School Student Council Brooklyn Media Center. They'll be hosting a homecoming scholastic book fair. That'll be held September 29th, 2018, October 8th through 11th, 2018, and February 25th, 28th, 2019.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
It's a good thing we didn't have Krispy Kreme on here.
Yeah.
After the last
Little
That would have been like O'Malley's. That would have been kind of very ironic and
Well,
very,
and,
you know.
and it's, because you went there.
Okay. Well, who doesn't like O'Malley's?
We
Let's be
have to
honest
be,
about that.
we do have to be
Yeah, who doesn't like
mindful of
O'Malley's?
when
I could
we
live
sell
there.
it.
I know.
We
What?
have to be mindful of when we do sell those. Because really, within the school day proper, you can't sell that stuff.
After 3:11.
O'Malley's is my daughter's
After-
mothership. She,
I understand.
3:11.
After
she loves the
3:11,
place.
it's
She
fun.
wears the hat. It's her
selling us
mothership.
Well, we're selling the Diet Mallee.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
Okay,
Diet
yeah, yeah,
Krispy
Yeah.
right, that's gonna work.
Yeah, go
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah, go with that one.
All right, Mr. Street, can you call the roll? This place out of control.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Rocky, do you want to take that one? Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
She's not going to let you live that one down.
We're good.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn
deserve
City
it.
School District Board of Education hereby authorizes the superintendent to enter into the attached agreements with the Cleveland Clinic Learner School for Autism for the services for the school year of 2018-2019.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Dr. Glykoff, you want to
Again,
touch
yeah,
base
these
with
are
this?
these are mandated placements by a student's IEP, which obviously is federal law. So, so you have to abide by those unless, of course, the placement is changed per the IEP team. Again, we've got 4 students that attend the Cleveland Clinic Learner School. It's $70,000 a year.
$70,000 per student, correct?
Correct.
So we have 4 here, and then we have 4 at PEP.
That's correct.
So we have a total of 8 out. Okay. And these ones are 70, because I thought last year was like 75,000. So we're at 70,000 each. That's each. I
That's
want everybody to be
each.
like, and we have
There
no
is some-
choice in that. We
For
have no
each
choice.
one?
Some reimbursement, correct, John?
Catastrophic.
Minimal?
loss.
We
get-
have, so try not to make it too complicated, but the state has a pot of money, it's not very much. And so all the districts go after that pot of money. And with
Shocker.
the available pot of money, we can get a 39% reimbursement.
So about 40, so
of
28,
of
so
what's
they're
available.
probably
Of what we
42,000.
are eligible for.
They're 40.
42,000. But I just want to make that point. I mean,
Yes.
since Dr. Glykoff talked about new money, about
It
half
doesn't-
hour, and people need to realize, and that's not our choice. That is by their IEP, and that's federal law, correct? We have no choice in the matter
Correct.
of them going to those places.
And transportation costs to get them in there and back as well, too, is our responsibility. Okay, anybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby commends the following students per the attachment for the honor roll and merit roll for the fourth quarter of
Ian
2018.
Hennings. See, there you go.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
He's gone.
Questions, comments?
Yes, sir.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Keep up
John-
the good work.
Jim, what was the number again?
243 and 151.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes. Don't your kid?
Yeah, he found mine.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School
You must get that from his
District
mother.
Board of Education hereby approves the following resignation.
Gets that from me.
Annie Hostetler, Principal, Brooklyn High School, effective July 31st, 2018. Correcting resolution number 18-06-121 from the June 20th, 2018 board meeting.
Can I have a
So
motion,
moved.
please? Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Yeah, we just had the wrong date on the resignation, so this is a amendment to it.
Anybody else?
Thank you, Annie, for
Yes.
your years of service, and wish you best of luck in your new venture.
We got another commendation at the end.
Coming next.
Yeah, there's another one.
Recommendation.
Okay, Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
The Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby commends Antoinette Hostetler for 20 years of service to the students of Brooklyn.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second? I'll second it. Questions, comments? Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you know,
Appreciate
Annie's had a variety of roles in the school district, from
Yes, she
teacher
has.
to coach to athletic director to assistant principal to principal. So, I mean, she's done a lot of different things, and we appreciate her work here. So,
She's grew up with a lot of families. So, thank her very much. Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Be it resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves employment of the following administrative personnel. Brian Hare, Assistant High School Principal, starting August 1st, 2018 through July 31st, 2020. Salary as per attached contract.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
yeah, I'd like to, Brian's with us tonight. Let me just say something before I introduce and talk about Brian, as well as Laura, which is our other assistant principal resolution in front of you tonight. We had nearly 80 applications for these positions. So we had a lot of interest from sitting principals, sitting assistant principals, and qualified teachers and staff. Brian comes to us from Cleveland Metropolitan School District, where he is the assistant principal at Scranton Elementary. Also performing the role of curriculum and instruction specialist in that school for the last 2 years. Special ed teacher in CMSD, Highland Schools, as well as Southwestern City Schools. The interview team and I were impressed with, in particular, how he's coached and he's worked with teachers, how he's worked with them one-on-one, doing a lot of modeling, and actually doing co-teaching with teachers as an assistant principal to try to help their craft. So, really impressed with that. I think he'll be a good complement to Mr. Wingler, who will be the new high school principal. And I think I'm excited about the team they're going to make at BHS.
Agree.
So,
Want to get up and say anything? You're good?
What do you got to say for yourself?
That's where you're
Not to put you on the spot.
Turn around and say hi to your peers.
Hi, nice to meet everyone. Just thank you, and I'm excited for the opportunity, excited to get started.
Appreciate it.
welcome.
Bill's not here to help you?
Yeah.
He's
on
now on the
vacation.
naughty
He's on
list.
vacation. He's on vacation.
I don't care. He's in trouble.
Exactly. All right, anybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Be resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves employment of the following administrative personnel. Laura Smith, Assistant Brooklyn School Principal, starting August 1st, 2018 through July 31st, 2020. Salary as per attached contract.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Yes,
Dr. Glycon?
certainly. Laura Smith is here with us tonight, and she's also brought her dad with her, so welcome as well.
Biggest fan.
That's the way this
Laura most recently was in the North Ridgeville School. She's been there for the last 3 years as an English teacher, but then also was kind of promoted up as an interim assistant principal when one of the principals was out on a maternity leave. She received some very good reviews of her work when she did that. Prior to that, she worked in Cleveland Municipal. She worked in the Ginn Academy, the Success Tech, and also John Hay. So has a variety of experiences. Also, while she was at those schools, was a mentor teacher and also served on their building leadership teams. I know that the interview team and I were impressed with her energy, her passion, her positivity, but also her knowledge of what good instruction is, and her ability to develop positive culture, which I think, she's going to be a great compliment to Mrs. Seco, who's also here tonight, so welcome again. So I think we got a good team here in our lower school, so.
Like I said, change is always a good thing. Doesn't hurt.
Thank you for saying my name correctly.
Would you like to say something?
No, he said it
All
loud.
right, all right.
Yeah, perfect.
All right,
You're very
good.
sensitive. Thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Be it resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the employment of the following CATS employee for the 2018-19 school year. Brittany Hubble, CATS preschool teacher at $27.10 per hour, up to 30 hours per week, with up to 10 additional hours per week.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Ms. Hubble is here with us tonight. She's been our CATS preschool teacher, not a new face to Brooklyn, and we're happy to have her continue in that. Again, this reflects the additional hours as we've got some new preschool hours with the UPK grant, but we're happy to have her here with us.
That's the 5-star preschool.
You got it, my friend. Keep saying it.
Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the employment of the following student workers starting June 1st through August 10th, 2018. Student workers shall receive $8.50 per hour. They are Adam Cutright, Brad McCormick, James Shaw, Alex Hilku, and Hashim Sashin.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Student workers, I'll put this plug in. I'm happy that you'll resolve these, and certainly if there's others out there, we'd love to have them. We're in great need of some student and additional help. 3 of these will be working buildings and grounds. 2 will be working with digitizing some records. So the 2 of them will be working with us, and Mr. Smith in particular, doing some of that, and that'll be part of the hire an intern program for the Brooklyn Chamber. So there will be some support from the Brooklyn
Good.
Chamber on that as well.
Appreciate that.
So,
Anybody else?
I'll say it again this year, like I've said in the past. $8.50. I don't know. We could do a little bit better. I think they're out there doing all that work, and it's going to be 95 degrees here. Maybe it's the mom and me, but I just personally think we should give them. I said it again this year. I think whatever.
We have that ability.
The nurse will
know.
be here if they get hot.
Still, $8.50 an hour. They're doing some very. I mean, like if people who are around, they're doing all the hard work around here that needs to be done. I mean, to help get the buildings ready.
Yep.
I really
I
do
agree.
feel that way. I'm not, so.
Okay. Anybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the employment of the following individuals to perform summer cleaning for 5 hours per day, not to exceed 50 days. They are Barbara Flanagan, Joyce Hennings, Melody Click, Linda Prusak, Patty Sclamato, Elizabeth Smith Heisler, and Cindy Tellum.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
As Mrs. Barcheck has said before, we've got a crew here that works daily, cleaning, doing our work here, cleaning, etc. You can see some of the fruits of that down this hallway, as this was one of the first ones they hit. I'm looking for additional summer cleaning help.
Yep.
So if there's other folks out there, please
Please.
tell them to come
Yes.
and talk with Mrs. Neal or Mrs. Ripley, so.
She's not old
Gotta
enough.
be 18,
Yeah, gotta be 18.
but these are cleaner cleaners.
What about
Yeah.
the Hennings twins?
I tell them, but they
They graduated.
tell them.
Anybody
They looked
else?
at me and laughed. We graduated. We ain't going
Mr.
back
S-
there.
Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Henning?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
It has been
Yes.
quite the meeting today.
It's summertime.
Summertime.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the following classified staff member to work with students in the Extended School Year ESY program. A Margaret Vassy, classroom assistant, up to but not to exceed 48 hours from June 19 to July 19, 2018, at a rate of $13.23 per hour.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
I'll put my comments here for the next three
Okay.
resolutions. These are extended school year. So to kind of go along with the theme that Mrs. Barcheck was speaking about before, we have some students per their IEP and per the IEP team that might necessitate extended school year, meaning beyond the 9 months. And so the IEP team makes that decision, and hence then there's services, special services that are provided. So these next three are for folks to do, provide that, whether it's classroom assistant, whether it's OT-PT services, whether that might be ESY, so, or hearing impaired, visually impairment services. So just so you realize, those are all together for summer help.
Okay. Anybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Be resolved that Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves Lisa Deesh, PT, LLC, for extended school year physical and occupational therapy services not to exceed 20 hours.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Mr. Street, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Be resolved that Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby authorizes the superintendent to enter into a service agreement with Candace Evans for ESY services not to exceed 2 hours.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Street, can you call the roll? Or questions, comments? Mr. Street, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves granting a limited contract to the following certified personnel for the 2018-19 school year. Julie McGrary, Moderate Intensive Intervention Specialist, Class 5, Step 5.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions, comments? Dr. Glycon?
Yes, Julie McGarry, she's with us tonight as well. Due to a recent resignation of a special needs teacher, we needed to replace that. And we had many applicants, even though it was a moderate intensive licensure we were looking for. Julie was one of those. Most recently, and she really came to the top of the applicant pool. Most recently, she worked with Achievement Center in Westlake, which is a special needs school, and I was in a class with middle school age students on autism that they were primarily with. She moved up to Cleveland just this past year, and that was the job. Prior to that, she was down in the Cincinnati area with 2 different school districts, working 15 years in total as a MD teacher, multiple disabilities, and I think also had students with cognitive disabilities. Also had roles as a Special Olympics coach, girls on the run and girls on track. So very active in helping students in a variety of special areas. So we're very fortunate to have Julie here and become part of the Brooklyn team.
Great. Appreciate it. Thank you. Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Welcome.
Welcome.
I'm excited to join the Brooklyn family.
Thank you.
Be resolved that Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the following exempt employee contracts for the 2018-19 school year. Laura Baker, secretary to our superintendent. Patty Ripley, secretary of support services. Robert Black, technology specialist.
Can I have a motion,
So
please?
moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Yeah, trying to align our exempt employee contracts to some of the administrative contracts that we've made changes to, so we thought this was the appropriate time to do so.
Anybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Newell?
Yes.
Be resolved that Brooklyn City School District Board of Education authorize the treasurer to enter into a contractual agreement for student accident insurance coverage with Guaranteed Trust Life Insurance Company to be offered for the 2018-19 school year. Contractual agreement is on file in the treasurer's office. This is for a school-time coverage plan and 24-hour round-the-clock coverage. Also includes senior high school football coverage.
And this was really good because I had a kid on the football team and I paid for it, so I was never worried about whatever he broke.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else? Well, I could have a motion first, right? You have a motion? Yeah, let's talk a motion.
So moved.
Motion first.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Now we can have questions, comments. Bob, you want to talk again?
I had a kid on the football team and it was really a worthwhile thing to have. It definitely gave me a peace of mind in case if he got drilled out there, which usually they did, but it's a worthwhile thing to have.
Appreciate
It's worth the money.
Appreciate that, seriously. Anybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Roper?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Newell?
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education approves the revised resolution of urgent necessity. This revision is to increase the maximum expenditure, removal of one rooftop unit at the cost of $3,650 necessitates this revision to the maximum amount before the
Thank you.
board approval would be needed again. The maximum amount was $350,000. The increase is to $360,000 for the rooftop unit and any unforeseen costs that might arise.
Can I have a motion, please?
moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Mr. Street, Mr.
Can we keep the scrap?
I don't know if we're gonna, the rooftop unit.
Kind of kidding, but kind of not.
Are we keeping the scrap?
Yeah, I imagine we'd scrap
We
it.
could.
Get some
scrap
get some
metal.
metal out of it.
Yeah.
Just so you know, yeah, this is what I spoke about in my State of the Schools, looking at doing a repair to the, some of the, over the instructional areas of the high school roof. This is, it's got a 15-year warranty on it. I know that was one thing that when we were talking with the roofer, we were concerned about. We didn't want to do something that was going to be a Band-Aid and would only have a couple of years to it, but this was 15, which is significant. So we just, as I've explained and we've talked about, it just, we needed to do something. And especially in light of not having a peak.
And the timing factor, I think, is very important
Yes.
as well,
Yeah,
too.
So if you recall, so on June 20th at our work session board meeting, you folks passed a resolution, and the Squires Patton Boggs, when they draft the resolution, they put in the dollar amount that I tell them to, and it states that it'll be this amount, not to exceed this amount, or it has to come back for board approval. Well, of course, something came up, and it's going to be $3,650 more than we initially thought, which is to remove that rooftop unit, because we didn't want to leave the rooftop unit there that's not being used, and then put the new roof around it, and then all of a sudden think, oh, we have to remove this afterwards. So we'll take it out, re-roof the whole area, and that's what precipitates this. So the new resolution of urgent necessity calls for $360,000, even though it's supposed, it will cost us $350,775. I gave us some leeway, so I don't have to bring this back to you again, but we certainly would be very, very careful if there was more cost than we had thought, and make sure that they were correct costs. And the urgent necessity, for folks that aren't aware of urgent necessity, if a school district finds that there's an expenditure that's required for the safety or the well-being of the building, that the Board of Education can do a resolution of urgent necessity which will allow us to skip the 2 weeks plus of competitive bidding. And so we found this company that will put down this membrane, and because of the timing, we'd like to get it done. It probably won't be possible. We'd like to get it done as soon as possible before school starts. It'll probably last into school, but this will allow us to get it done as soon as possible.
There's no hammering, there's no, there's minimal nails, there's minimal noise and all that good stuff. And the money that we're using this is from the permanent improvement levy that we failed. There was some money left over in it. So this has depleted it. So this is the conversation that the board has to have about new monies, new permanent improvement money. This is, that pot starts to dwindle.
Yes, because this was the option, because we looked at another option that was more money that would have gone into the timing of it, wouldn't have been as good. We wouldn't have been able to get it done as quickly, so that rain would be an issue still. And to be honest, we don't have the money. To spend the $360,000 is hard enough, let alone, but it was also the timing of it. It would have been a problem with instruction, correct?
Correct, yeah. If you did a full roof repair, there's the tear off of the roof, which is probably the most time intensive, almost 6 weeks, where they scrape the roof off. And so this allows this kind of TPO membrane, if you will, goes right over that existing roof. And so it cuts down that time significance. And what we found is that there's many schools and businesses that are putting this TPO kind of membrane roof. It's kind of some of the latest technology with roof construction. So, but as Mr. Neal said, and the whole process is time, much less time intensive, and it is very noise reduction, where putting it on a roof and tearing it off is very, very noisy, and we couldn't do that during the school year. This, hopefully, we could get done prior to, but it may be even something that, even if it went during the school year, it would not be a distraction.
Right.
So,
And for posterity's sake, I'd like to see too that, we lost by 2 votes the permanent improvement levy that we had up in November of 2017. And the plan at that time was to pass that PI levy, borrow half of the cost, which you can do under law of that permanent improvement levy, and then the money that was left over from this building and some money from the permanent improvement fund that we had would allow us to pay cash for the roof all at one time, to about $1.3 million. We could have done that, and then we were so close, but we lost by 2 votes. So we thought all was lost, and then this company's, the board and Dr. Glykoff and Mrs. Neal talked to this company, and they said, is there any other cheaper cost that we can put on a roof or something that would last a long time? And they came up with this membrane, and this membrane, as Dr. Glykoff said, 15-year life, and so at a much reduced cost that we can actually afford, and that will protect the school. And then from the pictures that were shown, hopefully, stop the leaks that they're not coming from way over here somewhere, and protect the buildings.
and I think it should be noted too that this only will be covering the most needy areas. This is not the entire roof.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, this is.
this is only partial. Mr.
Dr.
Henningsen?
Glykoff,
Yeah.
can you please explain to those who are listening how that's going to dry out up there? That and how the warranty's going to work?
Well, the
Because as
warrant-
much water as we had, I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty wet up there, so how's that going to dry out?
It will take time, but how that will happen is that there's moisture that is in that traditional roof has a rubber membrane over a concrete deck. And what's happened is that membrane has been compromised and water has reached under it, and it's kind of right between that deck and that membrane. That's why when the water, when it manifests itself within the school, kind of comes out almost as a tarry substance, because there's really tar kind of built up in there. Nevertheless, once you have it completed and you're not getting any more moisture in there, you're eventually going to have that dry out, that water will dissipate. What they also try to do prior to putting it on is really kind of stick holes in there and try to suck the water out in that membrane prior to putting it on. So they try to, get as much of it out of there as possible before putting that membrane. Will they get all of the moisture? Probably not, but they'll get a good portion of it. So over time, it will dry out, and then you'll get no more water intruding that will come and manifest itself within the school itself.
In those areas, though, we're not
Those areas.
doing the
Thank you for
full-
sharing. Yeah,
We're not
You
doing
know,
the
we're
full
really
thing.
looking at the high instructional area, which is the second floor of the high school. There's a part of the cafeteria that is in dire need, and we're also looking at the band kind of area because there's been some areas over there that are of great concern.
And how's that warranty gonna work? What's gonna get fixed if it starts to leak again over those same areas?
Well, what happens is that when how a warranty works is that this is I think it's John's
Mansville.
Manville is so what they do is they come out on site and they will actually watch how it's being installed because it's their product. And so if they see that it's being installed properly, they're going to support that 15-year warranty. And if we get leaks, we're just gonna say, hey, you know, it's got to be replaced, or it's got to, you know, you got to repair that. So, so that's how the 15-year warranty. So we'll have, you know, John's Manville folks here during the install of that.
The roofing company that we are using has been doing the roof for 25 years, with the exception of the new school.
The new school.
So they know our roof pretty
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Anybody
Yeah,
else?
Just one more thing to add. Dr. Glykoff, if you could research again with Sandy Neal. I spoke to roofer at our building in Strongsville, and he also suggested to have a masonry contractor look at the capstones, because I guess this layer doesn't go over the capstone, but shy of it. So all the capstones, the brickwork on the edges of where we're putting this membrane down, that they might need some tuck pointing and sealing. So you may want to research that. He said the cost is negligible, but it's still something that you want to do, because what he explained to me was you have capstones that sometimes over a period of time they crack,
Sure.
little cracks, or the mortar falls out. And the leaks, the water comes in, not through the membrane that we're replaced, putting on top of the building, but in those cracks, and then runs along the walls of the building.
Yeah.
So he suggested that make sure that we have a review of all the capstones.
And I think that's wise. The way I understand this too is that the membrane, you know, we've got virtually a flat roof, and then we've got our kind of areas, you know, parapets, if you will, on the edges. What happens is that this membrane goes up that sidewall, and it goes on top, and then they put this cap over that. So it really is a new piece. But I think what you're speaking of is, you know, when we get water intrusion on those cap stones, maybe on the outside, you know, we get a lot of driving rain, and certainly the spring brought a lot of driving rain. We got everybody who, you know, I got rain in my house from different areas that you just never
Different
imagined
angles,
because
yeah.
of the angle of the rain in which it comes in. So those are things we always have to be mindful of, but I'll do some research on
Okay,
that.
good, thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Dr. Glykoff, one last thing. Were you able to check with Mrs. Neal about that spot in the on the stage?
I did not yet,
Okay.
but I will.
All right,
And
thank
so
you.
this is to reiterate it again, that we are not doing the entire thing. We would have
Correct.
had, we passed the PI levy. We do care and we do want to do it all, but we don't have the money for it. But this is we're doing it over the areas that need it the most, correct?
The areas of greatest need. And I really, to be honest, I'm prioritizing the instructional areas, you know.
I agree.
Yes.
Anybody else? Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Oakley.
Yes.
Mr. Hennings.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes. Next, executive session. Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves entering into executive session for the purpose of the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of an employee of a public official pursuant to RC 121.22G. Upon conclusion of the executive session, the board president will gavel the board back into open session at this location. All matters discussed in this executive sessions are designed to the public officials and employees as confidential pursuant to RC 102.03B. Because of the status of the proceedings and/or the circumstances under which information will be received, and preserving its confidentiality is necessary to the proper conduct of the government business. Can I have a motion, please?
moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Street, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer,
Yes.
Mr. Oker,
Yes.
Mr. Hennings,
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck,
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes. I got 7:39, is that correct?
7:40 is when my
7:40, we'll use 7:40, I think that is phone is, or that clock is, we will not doing any further